The James Show Podcast.
It's been almost a week since the flooding happened. I think having a discussion about the policies and the politics and the preparation and the recovery, this is all open game now. You know, you have the sort of hesitation in the first 48 hours, 3-4 days maybe. There's that sort of too soon kind of feeling, but now there's not. Because how many times have you heard, if you've been listening to talk radio, we've been playing you some examples. You've probably seen it on your own Facebook feed. But the absolute callous reaction to some of our neighbors to what happened in the hill country over by Kerrville. It's kind of bone-chilling stuff. For those of you, maybe if you haven't heard it, you're just stumbling on this station for the first time this week.
Seeing a lot of people saying now is not the time to be talking about politics in regard to the flooding. Yes, the did. I know you're mad that I said if you voted for MAGA, you voted for this. But you did. If you voted for Trump, you actively voted for those girls in Texas to die being swept away by that flood. Because your vote for Trump was also a vote to take away the National Weather Service's funding.
Now, this isn't a thought leader. This isn't a host on MSNBC. This isn't a columnist at the New York Times. She's not a professor at a college. This is a person who is downstream of the, national conversation. And it's just repeating what she's heard from thought leaders. That's why we use that term, thought leader. Well, where does she learn this? Who is she hearing this from? How can you be made so callous to the suffering of children just based on politics? Well, she's bought into this absurd claim that you're a Nazi. That Trump is a Nazi, literally Hitler, and you're either actively supporting him or you're so stupid you have been duped into supporting a Nazi. And so that's where this hate comes from. And if it were true, if that weren't a caricature, but just an observation of fact, these horrible takes, you could see how they would be justified. I still wouldn't justify it. But if you could minimize the people that are giving power to literally Hitler, that would be a sacrifice worth taking, wouldn't it? Now, I am not saying that is true. I'm just saying, once you get people to believe this absurd idea that you're a Nazi, that you're a racist, that you're a sexist, that you're a bigot, these terrible takes that are thrown back at you actually make sense if you're, under that delusion. So let me give you a great example. We have the Alvarado shooting where it's not, I think it's worse than the McAllen shooting. Bad as that was, one guy squeezes off some rounds into an ICE facility. He hits 3 people. They're all going to be fine. But here we have 12 people now wrapped up in a conspiracy. So not only did someone think it was a great idea, they found 11 other like-minded people who are willing to go that far to do a terror attack, to do attempted murder. Where does that come from? How do you justify that? Now, logically speaking, there is no explanation for it. And I'm not excusing their actions. I'm just explaining them. But I know you have the same cognitive dissonance I do. When Joe Biden was deporting 1 million people, no concern about ICE. They weren't Gestapo then. They weren't the Secret Service. They weren't secret police. They weren't stormtroopers. They weren't kidnapping people. They weren't putting them in concentration camps. When Barack Obama deported over 5 million people, were the detention centers called concentration camps then? No? So these people are getting ginned up. These are not bright people who are easily persuaded. When you see a hypnotist wave the watch back and forth, you're like, who could fall for that? These people. And so they are being told by these very evil people that ICE agents are akin to Nazis. They are just kidnapping people, immigrants and legal immigrants and just peaceful people based solely on the color of their skin for sport because this country is run by a bunch of white supremacist Nazis, apparently, is the delusion that some of these people are under. But once you believe what this protester says here, you understand why the people in Alvarado think the way they do.
Your children will one day grow up and know that their fathers or their mothers were kidnappers against our own people.
Hang on a second. Was it kidnapping when Joe Biden's ICE arrested anybody? Was it kidnapping when Barack Obama's ICE arrested people? Is it kidnapping when police arrest somebody? Define kidnapping now. You just arresting people is now called kidnapping? Oh, okay. Got it. That's a real rational argument, sir.
History books will have your pictures. And we will know that you were the fascists.
That's probably why they're wearing masks.
scum that attack your own people.
Fascist scum that attack your own people. If this is how you caricature ICE agents, of course you're inciting violence against them. This is why they have to wear a mask. You're calling them scum that kidnaps people and turn against their own people, and villainous scum that are going to be reviled in the history books. Are we going to get a Nazi reference?
I can't think of a Jewish Nazi. I can't think of it back in World War II. But that's what you are right now.
Now you're Nazi.
You are the worst. You are the worst. The worst element of our community.
I will decry that. I will condemn that level of hyperbole and that speech. That is hateful. That is inciting violence. We saw it twice just in the last week here in Texas. How many other attacks and violent resistance have we seen against ICE agents throwing bricks at cars in Los Angeles and all the other things that have just barely traced across the news feed? Everyone should just roundly condemn that. Whether you're on Team Red or Team Blue, you should be at the point. It's like, hey, people are getting shot now. Let's tap down the Nazi rhetoric. But they're not doing it, are they? They're not doing it. They want more, or they would push back on this. There's no other explanation. They won't say it out loud. Oh yeah, we like more violence. But they know a few people sacrifice their lives for the cause enough chaos. Maybe political sentiment will turn ugly against Donald Trump or against their perceived political enemies. But make no mistake, if they're not condemning this, if they're amplifying this, they're putting this guy on the microphone at their rallies. They are either wanting this violence or they don't care how many ICE agents get hurt. It's all for the cause. My next guest coming on again from KTSA down in San Antonio, Christian Blood's back on. And as a guy who, works in a newsroom here in Texas, I want to ask you first, from what you've seen from the media coverage, what are they missing? What do we not know up here in Dallas and the North Texas area that the media is leaving out?
Well, there's growing talk about, I would say, two things to answer your question. Have you ever heard of disaster tourism, James?
Absolutely. Yeah. This is a new thing because now everyone has a social media feed looking for clout.
Yeah, it's this is becoming a problem down here. If you're, because you may have mentioned earlier the week when we spoke, I work in San Antonio, but I live in Kerrville, and it's very clear that we've had a significant increase in traffic for a city that has 45,000 people. Not dramatic, but it is an uptick. And so what officials are trying to stress to those social media content creators and so forth is please don't come down to Kerrville right now. You got Fredericksburg nearby, you got San Antonio, do the Riverwalk there, and we'll get into some numbers in a second, but the work here is not done. And it's one of those things, James, where this is just not a place for sightseeing for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, totally understandable. Now, how do you know this is disaster tourism and not, an influx of first responders and people who are supposed to be there?
Well, when people are flying privately owned drones along the Guadalupe River, they're not even supposed to be down there. We've had a rescue helicopter have to make an emergency landing, I believe, day before yesterday because
a drone literally hit it. Yeah,
collided with a drone. And the same goes for the national media. That's something that really shouldn't happen. It's true enough that there's not much in the way of rescue happening at this point, but 160 plus people still missing. James, we may not even be to the halfway point of the final death toll.
Well, and that's the scariest part of it. We're talking with Christian Blood. He's from KTSA down in San Antonio, but lives in Kerrville, so it's just in his backyard, metaphorically speaking, but almost literally speaking. Yeah, so that's something I tried to gloss over and not think about too much, is that this death toll may still double.
Yeah, I was telling a colleague a couple nights ago, we were talking about, big news stories over the years, and this is easily top 2, top 3 for me. And we both agreed that you've got to probably go all the way back to 9/11 before you can remember a news story that seemed to keep getting worse the further away you got from the day in which the initial event happened.
I would say Katrina. Katrina probably fits that, one. But that's still 2005? You're going back 20 years.
Yeah, long time. And I just go back to waking up Friday morning son woke me up. We had 6 people confirmed dead just before 9 a.m. And the event was still happening. And my goodness, we've come so far from that point. And, the other thing I was going to mention, or, the other question I was going to answer, what's the media not talking about as much as perhaps they should, is, Kerrville is not a city that's craving attention. This is historically a retirement community for those that finally got sick of the rat race of San Antonio. And in recent years, there is growth. There are more families. There are more children. So ordinarily, the arrival of the President of the United States tomorrow would be met with a lot of excitement. But under the circumstances, as you can probably understand, I think this is going to be a very subdued visit.
All right, Christian Blood, KTSA. I'm surprised that we still have the number that big of missing in all your news coverage career. I mean, don't we usually have it wrapped up after a week?
Yeah, and to kind of expand upon that, this is probably going to end up months. And if you stop and think about what's happened, if you've seen the footage undoubtedly on TV, of course, when you see it in person, it's even more compelling. When you see the debris that the cameras don't pick up from 100 or 200 feet above the Guadalupe, the shoes, the socks, the clothes, people's lives, the remnants of people's houses, the RVs. Well, inevitably, you're looking at probably more than 150 bodies that have yet to be found. And if you could see the debris piles, and that's not just stuff. A lot of it is broken trees that were knocked over, trees that were debarked. And then they're making these impromptu yet natural dams of lumber that's just been stripped of bark. And, they're even telling people not to clean up messes or piles of debris on their property until first responders have checked it, because you don't know what you're going to find underneath it. And again, back to the numbers, 160 plus missing. I don't know that they're all going to be found. Then you're going to get into decomposition dynamics. It's just not, I don't know of anybody that's really optimistic that we're going to see as many as one more person rescued at this point.
No, I think we're past that, what is it called? The golden hours or first 48 or whatever. All right. Sad stuff. Thanks for helping us keep track of it, Christian.
No problem, James. Good to talk to you as always.
All right. Now, if you want to help out, we have a list of places you can donate. Go to WBAP.com. It's in our little headline rotator. At news sites, how they have the headline that rotates at the top. If you want to donate to the pets, trying to rescue dogs, that's good. If you want to donate to the first responders specifically, or the Salvation Army specifically, there's 10 different places where you can direct your resources and get some help down there. And look, as many of these disasters as I've responded to, hurricanes and floods and the BP oil spill and crazy things like that, it's these private charities that get down there first and do the most good. I remember coming to a hurricane recovery, and some people were just so thankful because they had already gotten a check, a $200 check, so they could actually eat. And I was like, wow, FEMA got the money out that fast. And they said, no, that was from Catholic Charities. When someone said, I'm just glad that they put up a food tent. I'm like, oh, FEMA's already here? They said, no, that was the Salvation Army. So, these donations that you make, you may not see them turn into food that gets handed over to somebody. You may not see them turn into a blanket that gets handed out to somebody cold. But people make the biggest difference, and you have no idea, and you never get credit for it. I got an update from the WBAP newsroom. Thank you very much for Kimberly James for helping me out. 120 dead, 173 missing Texas-wide. Now, here's worst case scenario. These missing people, if you haven't found your way back to civilization in 6 days and you're in Central Texas, or you're in the hill country down there, it's not looking good for you. It's not looking good. So not only do I think the numbers could double, how about we go ahead and just kind of, prepare our little broken hearts to expect it to at least double. And if we get a better result than that, then we can, feel a little bit of sense of relief. But that's how bad this is. 120 dead, 173 missing. And when you're dealing with a story as serious as this, it kind of helps with some of the other stories that on maybe a slower news day or on a more lighthearted mood that we would probably be all over. Ken Paxton and he's the Attorney General for Texas, and his state senator wife, They're getting a divorce. Okay. I mean, I guess that's a headline. It was a top headline on Dallas Morning News website earlier today, but it doesn't really feel like it matters in the wake of this tragedy that we're seeing from the flooding, right? Doesn't seem so important right now, does it? And there's another story that's, I mean, I guess in normal circumstances, it would probably get a little more attention from me and you and the rest of us. But, Attorney General Ken Paxton's running for Senate. Who's he running against? John Cornyn. John Cornyn, one of his communications director people's rolled up in a rumor about some prostitution scandal. And, that's a fun, salacious story. And I don't mean fun like I delight in prostitution. Just it's a sexy story. I mean, by the definition of the word. I'm not as interested in that. It doesn't seem so important. And I'm a guy that traditionally downplays the importance of people's private lives or their sexual peccadillos when it comes to statecraft. With my great example, being the founding fathers, you should hear about all the sexually deviant hobbies that Ben Franklin was involved in. But on a day like today, it's easy to dismiss stuff like that. It's easy to keep your head screwed on straight and not chase rabbits. You know where the real important stuff is. And it's not that. I mean, I'm a big fan of marriage. When any marriage falls apart, that's a sad day. But I feel silly spending a whole lot of time on that or pretending like it's a make or break deal in the wake of what's going on in the Hill Country. If you want to donate, WBAP.com has in our headline rotator a list of resources to where you can direct it to however you see fit. If you want it to go to animals, you want to go to Salvation Army, you want it to go to the SPCA, you want to go to the first responders. There's about 10, 11 different options there. So go check that out at WBAP.com. On yesterday's show, we had my guest help us out with the mental illness or mental health hotline. That was Texas Ag Commissioner Sid Miller was sharing that he was opening that up to everybody. 833-897-2474. But let's just go ahead and just remember how this feels. And if the shoe's ever on the other foot, let's kind of tap the brakes. Like maybe next time the other guy's in a position of power and there's a natural disaster, we don't run so fast to say, hey, is there any kind of political dunking we can do on this guy in our time of need? I'm not saying we do that. I'm not saying you've done it. I'm just saying remember how ugly this looks and this feels from what we've been experiencing here. So let's look at the other big story right now. The only other story that really looks important in the face of this terrible flooding is what happened in Alvarado at the ICE facility. We still have a manhunt going on. WFAA gives you the report. 11 already in custody and catching charges. And they're looking for this one other guy. WFAA has the summary real quick.
11 so far after a group in black military-style clothing started shooting fireworks at this detention center where we're standing right now and sprayed graffiti on vehicles and a guard building in the parking lot. Alvarado police responded, and when an officer got out of his car, he was shot in the neck by someone positioned in the woods nearby, according to the FBI. Another, they say, fired 20 to 30 rounds at unarmed correctional officers. Last night, we told you about the first 10 arrested, an 11th alleged accomplice arrested too. And now, a blue alert for this man, Benjamin Hanil Song. He is a former United States Marine Corps reservist who the FBI says purchased at least 4 of the guns recovered, including 2 AR-style rifles. He is charged in a federal complaint with 3 counts of attempted murder of federal agents and 3 counts of discharging a firearm in relation to a crime of violence.
All right, so that's what the rest of the media has for you. My next guest is Tony Ortiz from CurrentRevolt.com. One of the side headlines, I mean, this isn't really that big of a deal, but the Dallas Morning News has been bought out by Hearst in New York City. So you're going to have New York City. You're going to have another major newspaper here in the great state of Texas that's going to be the property of someone up in Yankee-stan. So you have the New Jersey Star-Telegram over in Fort Worth. And now in Dallas, we have the New York Morning News. So that makes these used to be alternative outlets sort of the mainstream. If you want a Texas-based media outlet, I recommend a few. Texas Scorecard, Dallas Express, and from my next guest, CurrentRevolt.com. Hey, Tony Ortiz, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, let's talk about the less important stories first, because I don't want to get all bummed out here. It's kind of news. I mean, I even saw it mentioned on the TV that the Paxtons are getting divorced. But Ken and Angela, our Attorney General and State Senator, no big surprise there.
Yeah, it's one of the most shocking stories and also the least shocking story, right? Because as most people know, and this isn't news, Attorney General Ken Paxton has been caught before multiple times cheating on his wife, Angela Paxton. So this isn't really news. But what is news and what is interesting is that she did file for divorce today, and that in her response, her public response, she does make a statement that it was regarding a new affair. So it looks like he's done it again, which is a big deal, right? And so we actually, Current Revolt has a story. I've got a story, a personal story on something that I was hunting down, and I believe I know which affair she's referring to recently. And we're going to publish that for tomorrow. So for the subscribers that are listening, that's a pretty big scoop.
Ooh,
So
he's got a tease. Tony Ortiz got the scuttlebutt. Anyway,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, here's what's interesting that a lot of people aren't talking about with regards to the timing of her filing for divorce. And I forget the words because I'm not a lawyer, and forgive me, but there is a law that spouses can't testify against each other in court, right? Spousal immunity, I think is what it's referred to.
Oh, and that came up during the impeachment trial, didn't it?
Correct. But here's where it's a bigger deal. Just, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, the federal case against Ken Paxton was dropped. Okay? That was done. And it was noted that the case dropped. So
and we don't think that's a coincidence.
As somebody once famously put it, there's no coincidences in Austin. So I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's not. But a week later, after the federal court case against him has been dropped, she files for divorce. So very interesting.
Well, I'm sad those kids couldn't work it out. On the other side of the Texas senatorial battle, the John Cornyn campaign got some bad news. And who is this guy that because I'm not even sure if I can say his name correctly, but he's in a little bit of a love scandal too.
Matt McCoyak.
McCoyak. That's how you say that?
Yeah, a lot of affairs lately, right? Or alleged affairs. So yes, sir. Matt McCoyak is the comms director for Senator Cornyn's campaign. And as also related, Cornyn is running in a race, and Cornyn is the incumbent, and he's running a race against Attorney General Ken Paxton for that spot. And, we reported on this story regarding Matt McCoyak last year. So this isn't new news. That McCoyak has a Venmo account. And for the listeners that don't know what Venmo is a personal payment platform where, if I owe you money or you bought me dinner and I need to pay my share, I can send you cash through it. I can send you money through it. But Venmo is interesting in the sense that when you send somebody cash, you can choose to make that payment public. So James, if you and I go out to dinner and I have to pay you for my share because you covered it, I can say payment to James and here's $5 and it'll show that. So people that go onto my Venmo profile can see that payment. Okay. Matt McCoyak last year, we reported on that he had paid a woman, a Latina woman, several amounts of money quite often for what was labeled deck work. And that woman was definitely not his wife. And based on the profile picture, she did not look like a construction worker or some sort of worker in that field, right?
Tony Ortiz, are you profiling?
McCoyak about that.
Are you profiling here, Tony?
Absolutely. Of course I'm profiling. So yeah, she definitely didn't fit the profile of somebody who was doing deck work. And I called Mr. McCoyak, and he admitted that he had his words, kind of a sugar baby situation with this woman where he was compensating her with money.
Tony Ortiz,
to take care of her.
I'm sorry.
And we published that. That was absolutely.
Wow. Okay. I thought this was just like rumor mill, and I was clicking through from your website to his Twitter page, and the pinned tweet is from his wedding 2 years ago to some new lady. That's not the lady that was working on his patio apparently. So yeah, that's another level of scuttlebutt. Ooh.
Not the one that was working on his deck. Correct. Right. Yeah. And so I called him. He confirmed it, and then I later this has come out that this woman who matches the same look, matches the same name, and lives in the same city, got arrested recently for prostitution. And so it became a story again because this appears to be the same woman because the name, the location, and the look all matches up. of the woman that Makowiak was engaged in a sugar baby situation with, and he is now the comms director for Cornyn's campaign. So it is a story, that's for sure. Very interesting.
All right, we're talking with Tony Ortiz from currentrevolt.com. Now, you got us the inside info on the Ken Paxton story and the Makowiak story and John Cornyn's campaign with his little sexy endeavors. Now, let's go to the inside info on a serious story that actually matters in the Alvarado ICE attack. But there's still one man on the loose, Benjamin, and you have come across this guy before.
Absolutely. So a blue alert went out, and for the Texas listeners, your phone may have buzzed very loudly yesterday, and it's called a blue alert. And a blue alert is whenever a police officer is shot or injured or killed by an alleged criminal, right? And so a blue alert came out yesterday for a Benjamin Jimenez song, 32-year-old, and they're looking for him. He was part of a group of 10 other people from Dallas that went down to Alvarado, Texas, and staged an attack on an ICE facility. What's interesting, though, in that song, Benjamin's song, this isn't the first time he's been arrested. It's been several times, actually. Not the first time he's been on the radar for being a danger for the public. Song is part of an Antifa group called the John Brown Gun Club up in Denton County. And these are Antifa people that are pro-gun, and they show up to drag queen story hours and other type of leftist events, and they wear full black garb, they cover their face, and they generally show up with weapons, rifles, and they're open carrying. And Song had been arrested for alleged assault and other incidents way back in the day, 2 years ago. And the Denton County DA at the time dropped the investigation looking into Song, whether something was wrong or not. And now, turns out 2 years later, he is the person, the head suspect for shooting at police officers at an ICE facility.
Well, thank you very much for getting the background on this guy. That's why your website's so awesome. This is Tony Ortiz, currentrevolt.com. Appreciate your time, sir. It is in the James Show rotation for show prep. That, Texas Scorecard, Dallas Express, Newsbusters. Who else do I like to shine on this show? Real Clear Politics is a good one. Coming up next on the James Show, though, you're going to hear the story of some genius that stole an ambulance in Dallas last night. He crashed it. So you get a dumb criminal story out of it next. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.